The chance of a lifetime, here it is. Do you want it or not? I want it. Shock the world and knock him out and, end the reign of Usyk.
A certified puncher who is now next in line for the crown. Dynamite Daniel Dubois will soon attempt to overthrow the unified heavyweight champion.
We were introduced to Daniel Dubois as a killer. All that speed, all that power, he's gonna come to knock Oleksandr out.
I just want to go in there and fight and unleash hell on this guy.
Carefully, and now, that's surely it. Massive right hand. Yeah, Kusamano fighting back. But down he goes again. That's it, it's over.
At age 25, with limited experience, Dubois will be up against enormous odds as he looks to achieve the impossible and hand Usyk his first ever loss.
He's big, he's physically very strong, and he's confident. He believes he's going to win, so, you've got to give him a shot. Usyk is the favourite, but Dubois will give it a go, definitely.
But you know what's going to happen? Daniel Dubois is going to absolutely screw this up for all of them. He's going to knock him the out, I'm telling you.
I'm younger, I'm stronger, and, I've just got to release it all. 100% I'm ready.
Dubois will have the edge in power, youth and size, but will it be enough against the pound-for-pound maestro with everything to lose?
I give Dubois very little hope. Ultimately, he's in there against a genius.
Daniel is a young kid. He knows how to punch hard. I treat my every opponent exactly the same way. Extremely serious.
On August 26th, Oleksandr Usyk will finally step back into the squared circle and defend his titles against one of Britain's most destructive heavyweights in a battle of youth versus experience, size versus speed, and contender versus champion.
Do you think Usyk could knock Daniel out? Is that a possibility?
I think this was going to happen.
Really? You predict an Usyk knockout of Daniel or stoppage?
Absolutely, yes.
The Usyk camp predicting an emphatic and comfortable knockout victory for Oleksandr Usyk tomorrow night. Let's have a look if the odds reflect that prediction. But before we do that, let me quickly take this small time out to tell you guys about Game Time. I'm always stressed out trying to buy tickets. I've been stressed out over the summer. Today, I couldn't get tickets to a Misfits boxing match between Logan Paul and KSI. A lot of the time these days, promoters are buying up their own tickets so they can sell them for more on the secondary market. Trying to get tickets for AEW tomorrow. That's a different type of scenario. They are pretending that they have a sellout in order to look as good as the WWE. And suddenly all the tickets are popping up on the secondary market. Is it the right time to pull the trigger? Are they going to get cheaper? Are better sections going to become available? That's often the case at the last minute when you go to the US, when you want to get tickets for an NFL game or an MLB game. You're always looking for the best seats at the lowest price. But then the next problem is, are they going to come through on time? I've been in situations where I've needed to go to will call with an hour to go, so my tickets haven't come through. Will call won't help you because they work for Ticketmaster and you bought your tickets from StubHub. Ticket buying shouldn't be that stressful. Buying tickets to your favourite events should never be stressful. Game Time is the new, fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy and theatre events near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the actual tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll actually have at the event. They get planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on the tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash sales on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theatre, and more. The Game Time guarantee is also incredible because it means you'll always get the best price, even if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account and use the code SGPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code SGPN to make this even sweeter because you will get an additional $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Let me also quickly tell you guys about Underdog Fantasy. August is almost over, and you know what that means. Time is running out for you to draft your fantasy football team on Underdog Fantasy. Get championship ready for your home league by trying out our best ball on Underdog Fantasy. The time is now because the last day to draft your fantasy football team is September the 7th. So visit underdogfantasy.com or find them in the App Store and sign up with the promo code SGPN to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. That's underdogfantasy.com or Underdog Fantasy in the promo code SGPN. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-GAMBLER, GAMBLER. So let's break down this fight. And first of all, let's have a look at the odds. Let's see if the Usyk camp's prediction is heavily favoured by the bookies. Well, straight off the bat, you will see that Oleksandr Usyk is heavily favoured to win this fight tomorrow. He is the overwhelming 1-10 favourite to win. It's 20-1 for a draw, and Daniel Dubois is a 7-1 underdog. Oleksandr Usyk is, in fact, the 1-2 -200 favourite to make that knockout prediction come to fruition, despite the fact he hasn't won any of his last two fights by knockout, although they were impressive wins over Anthony Joshua. He won those via decision, and he's 3-1 to win via decision again. Dubois is at 8-1 to find a TKO KO, and a whopping 25-1 to win via a decision. The over-under markets, the over-under for this fight is set at 8 rounds. So under 8 rounds is at 10-11, and 8th round or over is also at 10-11. So if it finishes in the first 7 rounds, then the under cashes. If the 8th round begins for this fight, so in order to cash a selection on 8th round or over, you need to navigate 21 minutes of boxing. So if the 8th round begins, you cash this selection at 10-11. Honestly, that's not a bad play, and I will explain why shortly. Under 9 rounds is at 8-13, whilst you are getting 6-5 on 9th round or over. That's a 9th round to start. Under 10 rounds is at 1-2, and 10th round or over jumps up to 13-8. Under 11 rounds is at 2-5, and 11th round or over is 2-1. Fight to go the distance, yes, is at 3-1, and no is at 4-11. So it's 3-1 for the fight to go the distance. And that's the same price as Usyk to win via a decision. So they're really giving Daniel Dubois absolutely no chance of winning this on the scorecards. I tend to agree, but I'm not going to take Usyk via decision when I can get the fight to go via decision at exactly the same price, especially when you need one extra thing to happen. It is very, very likely to happen, yes, but I still think it's a little bit ridiculous to go down that route. The group round markets, they see Oleksandr Usyk as a favourite to win this in the first 6 rounds, where he's available at 6-4. He's at 2-1 to winning rounds 7-12. Daniel Dubois is at 16-1 to winning rounds 1-6, whilst he's 20-1 to win it in rounds 7-12.
We've got a big fight on Saturday night. How excited are you?
I'm very excited about this fight. You know, this is what we've worked all this time for, and to get Daniel in a position he's in. And it's now up to him. All the hard work's been done in the gym. All the hard work's been done for outside the ropes from us. And now he's got to do the business in the ring.
And we just had the weigh-ins. Looks very impressive on the scales.
He does. He's big. He's got a lot of self-belief. He knows it's not going to be easy. Of course it's not going to be easy. We're a world-class performer. You know, this guy's done everything as an amateur and as a pro, two-weight champion. But I think it's Daniel's time, and I believe Daniel has the ability to win this fight. It's not going to be easy, and I'm not going to be saying that for 1 second. He's in the lion's den. You've got to have some balls, you've got to have some mental strength to fight in front of 46,000 fans, and of which probably 45,990 are Ukrainian supporters in Ukrainian Independence Week. But that shows you the measure of the man, because he could have step aside. He could have moved aside for this fight, but he chose not to do so, and I'm pleased that that is the case. You know, it's a tough fight tomorrow, but he can win it. He has all the tools to do this.
And when you say all the tools, do you mean the power? Has he got to knock him out, do you think?
Look, it'd be nice if he does that because it'll make it short. But these fights, they have 3 judges around the ring because fights do go to distance. So he's got to make sure that he's busy from round 1. He's got to impose himself. He's got to get behind his jab. He's got to get right on top of him and work off that jab. The big punches will come and let him feel that power, taste that power, and work hard. Make every round like it's the last round. Really, really work hard. If he does it, he can come through, and I believe he will do it.
And what about Usyk? I mean, he looks very impressive.
Well, he does. He's an impressive man, an impressive fighter. There's no doubt about that. We got to hope that. We got to hope that our man's a better man on the night, and I think he will be.
And the winner, Tyson Fury. The winner of this fight.
The winner of this fight will, in the first quarter of next year, will definitely, I believe, fight in a unification match.
These promoters always promising fights and never delivering. That's why we end up with fights like this with an overwhelming favourite. And while Tyson Fury goes off and boxes against Francis Ngannou in a ridiculous fight where Ngannou has no chance of winning. So 2023 looks like another mess around, nothing happening year in the heavyweight division. So we should be thankful for what we get. And there is a puncher's chance here for Daniel Dubois, but that is really it. Frank Warren there talking up the chances of his guy. I'm less enthusiastic about it, especially after listening to Tony Bellew this week on TalkSport saying how he felt like he was in the fight with Usyk, but Usyk just drains you. He makes you miss. And Tony Bellew actually felt like in other fights he would get stronger as the fights went on. That was his strength. By the time he got to the 8th round with Usyk, he had absolutely nothing left in the tank. And he said he'd never felt like that before. And he even called him the best fighter on the planet, and especially the best heavyweight boxer on the planet. So this is a guy who's saying that this Ukrainian who came up through the divisions is a better heavyweight than Britain's favourite son, Tyson Fury, although Tyson Fury hasn't really done himself any favours over the last couple of years. Yes, he had his big redemption story, coming back from addiction, coming back to beat Deontay Wilder as an underdog, has sold out Wembley Stadium, but he was not popular after he took the Derek Chisora fight, and he's not popular for seemingly ducking fights and always promising things and under-delivering. And as I said, this year's another down year, which is why we get fights like this. But Daniel Dubois does have that puncher's chance. The chance that I can build up for him is the fact that he does carry knockout power. And if he can let his hands go and isn't as hesitant as AJ to use his size and his advantages, then perhaps he can score the knockout punch. We have seen bigger upsets in the past, particularly in the heavyweight division. Also, how much weight do Usyk's recent wins have? Because after the Derek Chisora fight, we were talking about how maybe the heavyweight division was a step up too far for Usyk. Derek Chisora tactically found a way to take rounds of Usyk. He turned it into an ugly fight. He tried to get in close. He was willing to take shots because he didn't believe Usyk carried the power to knock him out. And as a result of getting close and making the fight pretty ugly, Chisora managed to win 4 or 5 rounds from Usyk. Now, Chisora isn't an elite heavyweight. Therefore, that's probably why Usyk went into the Joshua fights as a significant underdog. But instead, he outboxed Anthony Joshua and he massively elevated his credibility to the point where a lot of people think that he would beat Tyson Fury and Tyson Fury is ducking him. But what we've seen from Anthony Joshua recently, in fact, everything we've seen since he was first stopped and defeated by Andy Ruiz, has been a shadow of the former Anthony Joshua. So perhaps Usyk beat a very, very poor version of Anthony Joshua, an Anthony Joshua who was shaken up by his defeat, an Anthony Joshua who's never gained his confidence back, an Anthony Joshua who wasn't as good as the Anthony Joshua before, and therefore Oleksandr Usyk isn't as good as we think Oleksandr Usyk is. That is really the only chance that I can create for Daniel Dubois. But ultimately, the way I see the fight playing out is like this. Daniel Dubois' best chances are going to come early in the fight. Otherwise, he will also tire, and I think he will fall victim to Usyk, and he'll be vulnerable for the stoppage in the later rounds. But I would disregard rounds 1 to 6 as being the favourite. I do think that Dubois is going to be dangerous for the first 3 or 4 rounds, and Usyk's going to take time to find his rhythm. But as he grows more and more difficult to hit and Dubois isn't able to score the knockout, Usyk's going to start outboxing Dubois from round 3 onwards, and therefore Dubois will then be chasing the fight, looking for that big shot, tire himself out, and he will be susceptible to what is most likely a TKO stoppage. But I do think that is going to come in the later rounds. Therefore, rounds 7 to 12 definitely do appeal to me, along with Oleksandr Usyk to win by a decision. Where I bet there is a double chance market available where you can take Usyk in rounds 7 to 12 or points. You can take Usyk in rounds 1 to 6 or points at 4 to 6 minus 150, or you could take Usyk in rounds 7 to 12 with points at 4 to 5 minus 125. Before I close out with my final thoughts on the fight, which will include my lock, let me quickly tell you guys about DraftKings. You've waited all year and the time has finally arrived. College football is back, and so are the traditions, the tailgates, and the great offers from DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, new customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5 on any college football bet. That's right, kick off the new season with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use the code SGP. New customers, as I mentioned, can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5 on any college football bet. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with the code SGP. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-GAMBLER. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling sources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms. Let me also tell you guys about the SGP Patreon. Make sure you check out our Patreon. Sign up for the Patreon to get access to exclusive contests, including the NFL Win Totals contest with a $1,000 first place prize. The guys just also recorded their first sports gambling podcast, Stories podcast, just for patrons, chronicling the birth of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. There is even a Discord channel just for patrons. The Sports Gambling Podcast has and always will give out all their picks for free. The Patreon is a great way to support the network and fight back against corporate gambling. So if you want to get involved, head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. Everybody wants to make a case for Daniel Dubois because this is one of the few heavyweight fights that we are getting. However, it's hard for me personally to see this as anything more than a poor style matchup for Daniel Dubois, if I'm being completely honest. Dubois does pack a punch, but there are levels to this game. And if you've lost to Joe Joyce, I don't think you are going to be at the level. And I don't think anything Dubois brings to the table is going to be enough to take out one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in boxing today. That goes way beyond the heavyweight division. Oleksandr Usyk's masterful blend of movement and technical acumen will keep Dubois from being able to really set his feet to generate the kind of fight-ending power that he'll need to land in order to stop this and to cause a monumental upset in front of 42,000 fans who will be supporting Oleksandr Usyk. Don't forget, this fight may be in Poland, but it's just 50 miles away from the Ukraine. He's a hometown fighter. This is going to be intimidating for Daniel Dubois, a fighter who has had a reputation for going into his shell and crumbling when it really matters on the big stage. Dubois' only chance is to do what Joshua couldn't do, which is find the shot that ends the fight. He needs to pack a punch and land a fight and utilize that big, genuine heavyweight power to knock out Usyk, who is essentially a cruiserweight. However, I think he's going to get picked apart, and Usyk could potentially win this on the scorecards, or maybe even score the knockout that everybody wants and that his team predicted late on in the fight. Unless Usyk is no longer the fighter that he was last year, I think he cruises to a decision here, or maybe even forces a stoppage because of that home support, giving him that extra adrenaline and incentive. The big question here is Daniel Dubois worse than the current incarnation of Anthony Joshua? AJ was really good at his best. Is he at his best any longer? Did Usyk beat the best version of AJ? Dubois is young and he's good, and he should still have a future if this doesn't go terribly wrong and wreck his confidence. Don't forget, he's not coming in here with an O. As I mentioned, I'll reiterate, he has lost to Joe Joyce already. I think it's kind of going to go wrong for him here, but I think if he can get past the halfway mark, it will be a respectable loss to lose to Oleksandr Usyk. Many others have done, although Usyk hasn't stopped anyone for a while. I think he could potentially get the stoppage here, but I think the selection on the double chance market of 7 to 12 rounds or Usyk on points really does appeal to me. Now, if your book isn't carrying this bet, you can take the two selections separately. So that would be Usyk at 3 to 1, or just the fight to go to decision, because my book for some reason is giving them both at the same price, along with Usyk in the group round betting for rounds 7 to 12. You should be picking up the 7 to 12 at around about plus 200, and you should be picking up the decision at around about plus 300. That could be a different way to bet it. But if your book does have the bet that I have, which I'm taking as the lock on this show, which is Usyk round 7 to 12 and on points in the double chance market, just simply bet it that way. That's it for me and this edition of The Fight Show. Good luck with all your bets as always, and thanks for listening.